Okay, hear me out. I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Tyler, I've seen so many videos, how to throw 100 feet further, how to hit the power pocket. This one quick tip that nobody wants you to know that's gonna make you throw 600, 500,000 feet or whatever. None of it works, right? I know you guys have all seen the videos. You've gone out and you've tried the thing that the person told you to do, and maybe you threw a little further, or maybe it felt a little bit better, but I can guarantee you nobody watched a video, learned something, and then went out and threw 100 feet further. It just didn't happen. It's never happened before. Unless you were throwing with your left hand and they said throw right-handed or something. I don't know. The point is, there's a lot of videos out there that are telling you how to throw further, and I think a lot of them miss the biggest point that should be made for actually how to throw further. So I'm going to tell you what I think it takes to throw 100 feet further. Now, I know disc golf isn't all about distance, but let's be real, throwing further is, one, something you kind of have to do if you want to play at a higher level, and two, it's a ton of fun. Like, being able to throw further is just fun. If anything, it's just something to do because it's an enjoyable part of the game, and even if you don't become like a really good disc golfer, throwing really far is something that's fun to work at. Throwing out in a field is super fun. I mean, look at the distance competition. Like, it's just so cool to see a disc fly that far. Now, before I get into my philosophy for how to do this, you're probably asking, why should you listen to me, right? Maybe I could throw a little bit further, but I mean, why should you listen to me, right? Like, why should you listen to my advice when there's so many other pieces of advice out there that people have made, similar videos? Why am I the one that should be listened to over everybody else? And I'm not saying that I'm like knowing more than anyone else or that you should listen to me over everyone else. I think everyone is valid in their opinions, but I do think that there's a good reason to listen to me, and I'm going to lay it out here. So I started playing disc golf. Well, I started taking disc golf a bit more seriously, meaning I was buying my own discs. I had like a few DX discs I threw around for fun every once in a while, but I really started playing disc golf in May of 2021, so it was about a year and a half ago. And at that time I had UDisc on my phone, and the cool thing about UDisc is you can sort all of your measured throws by date. So I can go back and look at my throws from when I first started playing, because I was recording my throws at that time. I was already taking videos, I was already doing form reviews for myself, and I was already trying to throw further. So I came from Ultimate, so I could already throw pretty far. So I'm going to pick out this one right here, which I think is pretty indicative of what my general max distance was at the time. This is 357 feet. Let's say on a max distance shot with my Shrike, this is what I was throwing, so it's right here, was about 350 feet. Now, let's fast forward a year and a half. I've done all the work, and about 2 weeks ago, this is January 12th, I threw, for the first time, 500 feet. So we've added about 150 feet in about a year and a half. So I've clearly put in the work. I've clearly been able to throw further. Even when starting from a baseline of already being able to throw pretty far, I've been able to push, right? Like, it's not like I started throwing 200 and can throw 400 now. I started throwing 350 and can throw 500 on my max shot, right? I've pushed to the more difficult part. So I think I have a pretty good idea of how to push yourself to throw further. All right, enough talking about why I'm so great. Let's answer the question briefly. I want to give a brief answer to the question, how do you throw 100 feet further? How do you add 100 feet to your distance? The answer is the same as pretty much any other thing that you want to do in life that you want to improve at. Even putting in disc golf. I mean, what's the answer to how to putt in disc golf? You go to a basket and you putt all day. Are there videos of, oh, if you put your finger this way, or if you putt with a spin, or you putt like this, you'll make more putts, or look at this chain link, or whatever? Like, yes, there's all those videos, but the straightforward answer is, if you want to putt better, you got to go out to the basket, you got to throw a bunch of putts all the time. There's different ways of doing it, but the answer at the end of the day is you have to do a lot of putting to get good at putting. Throwing far is no different. If you want to throw further, you have to throw a lot, okay? The reason I've been able to increase my distance so quickly, and why I'm still increasing my distance, is because I am constantly doing all of the work that it takes, putting in the time to do that, to increase my distance. I think the three core things you can think about are strength, muscle memory, and form. Okay? Those are the three things that I think you really need to worry about. So you do need to be strong. You have to have a strong core, you have to have strong legs, your arms, back, shoulders, everything has to be strong, right? All of those things are important. It's all form, sure, but you have to strengthen the part of your body that you're using to generate the amount of force you need. Strength is important. 2 is muscle memory. So muscle memory is also important. You need to have it in your brain. Just like putting, you need to know when you're going to throw that you have done it enough times and you can just get your body to move that way without having to think about it. In theory, could you, behind the screen right now, take a disc outside and perform all of the perfect movements, have perfect form, and throw 400, 500 feet? Yeah, you could in theory, but what are the chances that you're going to go out there and just randomly do it perfectly? I'm sure a lot of you have gone out into a field and thrown discs a bunch, or played rounds and thrown a lot of discs, and I'm going to bet you didn't just on accident hit the perfect line. Because as much as you want to think that there's like little things that you could change, there's a lot of little things that you can change, and you're probably doing a lot of things the exact same way every time you throw. You probably have a lot of consistency. If you've played a lot of disc golf, you probably throw the same way more or less every single time. But the problem is you haven't learned or taught yourself the correct way to throw far, which is why you're not throwing far. You're doing little things that are different every single time. Here's a good example of my point exactly right here. Go to Facebook and find the Disc Golf Form Review Facebook group. Find somebody who's looking for a form review. Say they throw like 300, 350 feet. Take a video of them and find an angle of any pro throwing the exact same angle and compare the two. I'm going to bet you can pick out like 10, 15, 20 different things that are different between the two of them. Now, these people are posting these form reviews, and it probably seems to you, or at least it does to me when I look at these videos, it's very obvious a few key things that they can fix in their form, but for some reason they can't see it. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to get at, is there's a bunch of little things that you can fix. If you go frame by frame, you're going to look different than a lot of pros. And if you look at two pros next to each other, they're going to look different, but like they're going to look pretty similar. If you go watch a video, there's like some videos online where they'll show, you know, the tee shots from a bunch of different pros in slow-mo back to back. And if you watch them, like they look a little bit different, but the general idea of how they're moving the disc is the same from player to player. If you were to take now someone who's doing a form review video and put them in between all of those, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb. You're going to be like, hold on, that guy looked like way different than all those other guys. And if you do it in slow-mo and can't even tell how fast they're throwing, like you're going to be like, hold on, like this looks way different. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is there's a lot of little things that you can fix, and you need to hone in on those. If you look back to my form from May of 2021 when I first started playing, so I'll put a video up right here, I mean, you can see clearly my form is way different. I'm using my arm a lot more, I'm running up with like my back kind of facing the way I'm going. There's a lot of things that are wrong that are clearly a lot different than the way I throw now. I mean, I was still throwing fairly far compared to some people who are just starting, but I mean, there are clearly a lot of things wrong with my form, and I can only go so far with just muscling the disc this way. Now, let's look at my form now. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's clearly a lot different than the form in that other video. It's clearly doing a lot of things better. I'm using the rotation of my body. My arm is reaching back all the way. My X step is a little better. I'm facing my hips sort of perpendicular to where I'm trying to throw. I was able to make all of these changes because I compared myself to other people. I watched videos. I painstakingly watched videos over and over and over. Even when I'm at work and bored and I don't have, you know, I'll take my phone out for 5 minutes when I'm waiting for something at work or whatever. And I'll just watch slow-mo and be like, oh, I gotta change this thing. And then after work, I'll go to a field work session and work on that one little thing. And that's, again, looking at the video, going out into the field and doing it. It's not about those little tweaks and just thinking that you're going to be able to throw further. It's finding those tweaks, figuring out what it is for you, right? Everyone's going to have videos about what works for them, but what you need to change is going to be different because everyone's going to throw different. Everyone's going to have different habits. You need to watch these videos and compare your form and figure out what it is that you have to do differently. Hone in on those little things one at a time and work on them over and over and over and over again. Go out into the field. I mean, I can throw pretty far right now, but I still want to throw further. I'm still going out like once, twice a week, even when it's 30 degrees, 20 degrees and snowing outside, because I still want to work on my form, work on that distance. I can throw into a net all day, but then I want to go and see how the disc flies when I'm making those changes. And that's really what it is. It's a slow, long process. You're going to pick up little bits of distance over time. Maybe you're going to go up in distance and then go down a little bit as you try to fix something, and then back up again, and maybe you'll go way down. But over time, the trend is going to be up if you keep trying to fix these things. So that's really the core of what I'm trying to get at here. It's not going to be little changes that you can do. It's not going to be some eureka moment. I've increased my distance quite a bit, and there really haven't been any like eureka moments. Maybe I kind of had a throw that felt pretty good, But like I said, it's not going to just happen randomly on accident. You might have something that feels good, and then you say, oh, that felt really good. This came out pretty well. I'm going to work on that thing. I'm going to make sure I can do that really well every time, make sure I can get the explosiveness and do everything right while also doing that little thing. And that's when the big distance gains come in. When you figure out that one little thing where you're like, oh, that felt really good. It didn't like go further, but the disc flew better. I feel better. I'll give one example. A lot of the times when I would throw, you can't really see with the sleeve as much. A lot of times when I would throw, I would kind of have my arm like this on my full reach back. I would be bent a little bit, okay? And that wouldn't really let me get that full slingshot effect. When I first started letting my arm get loose, tightening my grip, but letting it get all the way back and getting my reach back with my arm all the way straight back, that was like a big moment for me where I realized how important it was to get that full reach back. I wasn't throwing further right away, but once I realized that and incorporated that into my form and put the hundreds of reps into doing that one thing, it has become a lot more natural. When I watch videos of myself now versus months or a year ago, I can see myself doing this new thing naturally as opposed to before doing the old bad habit naturally, and I'm throwing further because of it. But making the one little change. The first throw that I did with this new idea in mind wasn't further than the throw right before it, but the throw 1,000 throws later was further, and it was because of that change. It was because I was able to incorporate it. I know I'm probably being a dead horse at this point, but I really want people to understand that as much as tips are going to help, the main thing that's going to help you is your effort and the amount of practice that you put in. It's not a coincidence that the people who go out and throw all the time can throw far. There's going to be some people that can throw further because they're talented. Maybe they come from other backgrounds. They get it quicker. They have certain muscles that are stronger. They're more flexible, whatever. If you are trying to throw further and you're having trouble with it, the first thing that I would ask myself is, am I putting in enough work? And am I expecting results to come quicker than they would come for anybody else? The last thing I'll say is if you are really having trouble and can't figure it out, I know I say that people post these videos and they seem to have obvious flaws in their form but can't figure it out. I know it can be tough looking at yourself and comparing it to someone else. It can be hard to see in your own form what you're doing wrong. I do think it is helpful to ask other people. Go find local pros who are doing clinics or lessons. They can help you a lot and point out different things that are wrong with your form. I do want to eventually actually do a Patreon or some sort of way that I can look at people's form and have sort of a paid service, pay a small fee, and I'll look at a video of your form and tell you the things that I think you need to work on. I think I've seen a lot of videos like this. I like giving advice for these things, and I want to try to help as many of you guys as I can. But really, that's all it is. It's just putting in the work. It's spending a lot of time on it. Over time, you will throw further. There's not going to be one eureka moment that's going to be like, oh my God, I can throw 500 feet now, right? It's the effort that you put into it. The more effort you put in, the more time you put into it, the faster it's going to happen, but none of it's going to happen without that effort and without that time being put into it. Well, that's my how to throw 100 feet further. I know it wasn't anything that maybe you were looking for, but hopefully this gives you a new insight on how to really increase your distance, and I think a lot of people can benefit from hearing this quite a bit because I, at one point, thought there was going to be one little thing that would make my throws go further and little tweaks that I could make that would make it instantly better, and I've found over time that just really isn't the case. So hopefully you can learn the same thing I did, but maybe a little earlier. I hope that was helpful. Stick around for some more content. See you next time. Peace.